Hi, I'm Ken Dale, Executive Director with Prevention Network Michigan. Prevention Network has been around for about 30 years, working throughout the state of Michigan to help community groups prevent underage drinking, youthful tobacco use, and other substance abuse. Our main goal is to work with local community groups to address local issues with local solutions. We do convene a couple statewide groups like the Michigan Coalition to Reduce Underage Drinking and Parenting Awareness Michigan. But even those events, those activities are really focused on helping you at the local level come up with local solutions with local problems. The Prevention Showcase is a chance for Prevention Network to work with the leaders from nonprofit groups and organizations here in the capital area and throughout the state of Michigan to tell their story. We want them to be able to showcase what it is that they do best right in your neighborhoods. We hope that you enjoy the show.
We're going to talk about designer drugs, and we're going to talk about the drugs that came first to Michigan, the K2 spice and the bath salts, and then we're going to talk about the emerging drug trends, and I'll come back to that one after this one. We'll take a break after we talk about this one. First of all, designer drugs, the bath salts, the spice K2. What are designer drugs? This is important to know the definition of designer drugs. They're chemicals that have been made specifically or designed by underground chemists, and we'll show you one of these underground chemists here in a second, so that they're not covered by the controlled substance statutes and still have the psychotropic effect similar to controlled substances that are popular among those persons who recreationally use those drugs. Ones that come to mind would be the heroin, the ecstasy, the Molly. Those are the ones that come to mind in terms of having that same psychotropic effect. The Food and Drug Administration does come into play because designer drugs do not have FDA approval and are produced by underground chemists who have absolutely no interest in or have no interest in monitoring the quality control of the product. They could care less. It's all about the money. Designer drugs are not correctly synthesized and purified because FDA is not involved. Designer drugs contain numerous toxic impurities not separated from the desired active ingredient after the synthesis was completed because nobody's monitoring it. Where do designer drugs come from? Chemical research, pharmaceutical companies, believe it or not, like Pfizer. Independent chemists who love the drugs, that's all they get a high on every day, is making these drugs, tweaking these drugs. Basement chemists, and also it's made and imported from China and India, then assembled and marketed in the United States. One of the most renowned chemists who let us know about this 30 years ago, he actually wrote a paper on this 30 years ago, is from, used to work for Upjohn. And I met with him with the Kalamazoo County prosecutor about 3 years ago. And he actually did a paper on this, and nobody paid attention to him in 1986. He said it's coming. And everybody, yeah. And it came. Underground chemists first determine which drugs are listed in the jurisdiction controlled substance statute. And what they do is they do this. The designer drugs themselves are homologs, analogs, and or derivatives of the controlled substance. So by making it a homolog to the controlled substance or an analog to the controlled substance, it takes it out of that controlled substance statute. Here's an example. I looked up cocaine and I looked up heroin. And I said to myself, how do you make cocaine? Well, this is the cocaine structure. That's the heroin structure. So simply, if I want to make an analog or a homolog to heroin, I simply change H3C to H2C. It still has basically the same effects as heroin, but you've changed it or tweaked it to take it outside that particular statute. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty easy. I mean, here, NCH3, I'll just change that to NCH2. It's like so many different ways to do it. Here, CH3 to CH2 or H3C to H2C. Not that hard for the chemist to do that. So obviously, that's all they're doing, and then they're selling it as basically heroin or cocaine with that small little tweak to it. Here's one of those scientists in his laboratory. Here's some books you can get on the internet. There's the husband-wife book. That would make for a good dinner Time Conversation, and you see some other books. Common characteristics of designer drugs: nothing natural about them, all synthetic. Marketed as something else: incense, like bath salts, glass cleaner, plant food, or hairspray, or excuse me, room spray. Attractive packaging for the underage kids, not for the adults. Very small quantity. The biggest quantity I have seen has been 3 grams. That's the biggest quantity. I haven't seen anything beyond that. And not for human consumption, they put on the package, and obviously it is used for human consumption. That's the whole purpose of it. Here's the common characteristics of the bath salts. Here's the Molly's. No ingredients are listed. Sold in the head shop or the internet. Research chemicals. And does not contain, and these guys are so good when they say it does not contain, here's what they mean by that. It does not contain, this by the way is one of the biggest packages in Michigan. It's called Head Trip. It has on the package bubble gum. There's no bubble gum in this package. And it says right here, it does not contain any of the following substances. Well, prior to July 1st, 2012, these particular substances, and if you count them out with me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 substances. Those substances were illegal in Michigan. They knew that. So they put on their package, hey, it doesn't contain any of those substances. So we're good to go. And then it talks about, and this is hard to read, the product is intended to be used as a potpourri only. It's not designed or intended for human consumption. It's amazing, the packaging. Bath salts. This is somewhat interesting. Abuse of recreational drugs sold as bath salts since 65 people. And this was back in 2011. The hospitals in Michigan over the past 6 months, and caused at least 1 overdose death at Ferris State University. That's where the overdose death took place. Here's what bath salts are. Once again, synthetic stimulant similar to these drugs. Ecstasy, that's the Molly's. The cocaine and or methamphetamine. Now, ecstasy, cocaine, and methamphetamine is expensive stuff. Methamphetamine is hard to make. You need the, the pills, the Sudafed pills, you need the anhydrous gas. I mean, why make all that when you can buy it in this nice little package? Cocaine is very expensive, and ecstasy is certainly expensive. So I don't need to do any of that if I could just buy it. It's derived from this chemical called cathadone, which is a Schedule I drug, by the way. Cathadone is a Schedule I drug. It's not for human consumption. This is what makes it difficult for the Border Patrol. It's white, odorless pills, odorless. No smell to it. Fine-grained, powdered, or crystal. You can make whatever color you want out of it. If you want to change it, and change it to a yellow or other type one. Here's some of the packaging, certainly for kids. You can snort it. You can put it, obviously there's the crystals. You can ingest it. You can put it in your drinks. You can do whatever you want with it. This is the active compound. I mentioned this cathadone chemical, but they don't use the cathadone. They take parts of the cathadone, and obviously make it an analog of the cathadone so it doesn't fall within that Schedule I drug. There's one of the packages. I can't even pronounce that word. Right over there, the top of the package. There's the dose for it, 25 milligrams to 500 milligrams. This is what it causes: delusions, seizures, restlessness, irritation, and inflammation of the heart. And one thing about bath salts, as the officers have told me, and as we talk about with bath salts, is the teeth grinding, the overactive teeth grinding. And you may see some things that they have with them that allow them to have that teeth grind not as bad on their teeth. Like they may have a pacifier, or they may have those little candy things, or those necklace candies that they chew on. So it's all about the teeth grinding. So you need to look for that. There's a case in Michigan. Here's day 1 of the case. They're banging their head into the wall. They pull out the IV twice. Hallucinating, thought security guard was drinking his beer. And here are some of the signs. The signs are pretty normal for the most part, but with bath salts, the muscle tone will be rigid. Obviously, the teeth grinding too. Day 2, combative. 12 people to control him. Injures 1 security guard. He's put on this medication. He's moved to ICU. He's combative again when he woke up. And in day 3, he remembers nothing about day 1 and day 2. So that's kind of scary.
That happened in Michigan?
It did. Here are the desired effects. This is what they advertise on the internet. Euphoria. I love some of the advertising of this. Empathy, decreased hostility. Hallucinations, that's what it's all about, it's the hallucinations. Increased insight, self-discovery. I love that one. Increased energy. And I love this one too, enhanced music appreciation. Apparently you have a better understanding of like Tom Petty music before you I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what they advertise. But here's actually what it causes. Restlessness, irritation, delusions, paranoia, nosebleeds, headaches, dilated pupils, blurred vision, the extremities, blue cold, the nausea, the vomiting, once again, the teeth grinding, excessive sweating. Here's where it first started. It first started actually up in Marquette, some would say. And here's what it was doing back in 2011. 18 cases related to bath salts in the past 4 weeks are reported, many of which in the Marquette area. Users describe being chased by demons, gods, aliens, or foreign soldiers. And here's what the captain said. I've never in 22 years in law enforcement seen a drug hit a community and cause so many police-related problems so quickly. And then obviously, according to the Poison Control Center, the numbers started to go up. Here you can see in 2010 the number of calls, 3,004. 2011, they had 6,138 calls. 2012, the first month was 228, almost as much as getting to what 2010 had in the first month. Here's some of the cases we've seen. OWI, early 20s to 30s, symptoms, jittery, incoherent, mood swings. And then we also have had 2 CSCs, aggressive driver runs over a police officer, and a fatal overdose that we talked about earlier. Bath salts have actually subsided, have leveled off. We don't see as much as a issue with bath salts that we do with the K2 spice. That's what really pushed the law back in July 2012 was the K2 spice peak. It really spiked. Here it spiked in 2011, but you can see it really, this was back last year, you can see that it went down. What about Michigan? What happened in Michigan is that we actually passed a law back in August of 2011 that really addressed bath salts initially, but all bath salts addressed initially were these chemical compounds. Well, they knew that there were more chemical compounds than this to make, so they started making these other chemical compounds. And that's what happened. Oh, sorry. Spice K2, here's a case out of Alaska. Crossed raised median 3 times, hit concrete wall twice, driving on the sidewalk with a broken axle tire. 6 out of 6 clues on the HGN, that's the horizontal gaze nystagmus. The BAC was 0.00, so something was wrong with this guy with a 0.00 BAC, and yet he failed 6 out of the 6 clues on the horizontal gaze nystagmus. Hallucinating, death is all around me, I'm going to kill the officer. So something was wrong here. This is what Spice K2 looks like. That's why it gets the name from the media, synthetic marijuana or synthetic pot, because it looks like pot, but it's not pot, okay? But obviously the media picked up on that. What is Spice K2? It's a dangerous synthetic research chemicals. Now think about this, that have been dissolved in acetone and sprayed onto dry plant material. That dry plant material is what looks like marijuana. That dry plant material actually is incense that you use or sell for your grandmother's bedroom or living room to make it smell nicely. as I remember when I was a kid. But it's not being used for that. And then obviously the acetone is a very dangerous chemical. It's a plant material that we just talked about, marketed as incense. It's laced with various synthetic compounds that do behave like THC. It was sold legally and locally up until July of 2012. And once again, the packaging I've seen is 3 grams, no more than that. Here's some of the ingredients for the potpourri, as I call it, or the incense. I don't know any of these ingredients except marshmallows, but I don't think it's the same marshmallows that we know. And then you can see the packaging is clearly for the children, not so much for the adults. Here's some more packaging. And one of the favorite ones here is this Blaze. It's like herbal smoked on steroids. It's like herbal smoked on steroids. 100% legal, 100% effective, 100% natural herbs and botanicals, 100% guaranteed not to show up on a drug test. So, right. Here's the most popular package, Spike Max. It's going for $28. That's 3 grams. That's a 3 gram package right there. It's kind of funny when I was up in Escanaba to do a presentation, I asked the officers if I could take a tour of one of the tobacco shops, and this was before July 2012. And they said, sure. Why? I said, I just want to know if they sell Spice K2 or bath salts. And so we go into the shop, and there's 2 people behind the counter, and I'm looking around in this small shop, and I'm like, I'm sorry, where's your Spice K2 and bath salts? And I was like really innocent about it. And I'm like, I would like to buy or look at maybe trying to purchase some. I was like not going to purchase any. And they're like, oh, it's behind the counter. And I'm like, well, why is it behind the counter? Well, the packaging's too small to put out here. And I'm like, that's lame, but I'll go with that. And so the packaging was all around like $25 to $35. Now they can't sell any of that stuff that they were selling back then. They were getting their packages. I was looking at it. It was it had a UPC on it from Idaho, so it was coming from Idaho. I mean, that's where I guess they were packaging it. So where does it come from? Here are the different types of compounds. These are the 3 main chemical structured compounds. If you look at these chemical structured compounds, you'll see the one is really potent. But let's start with this one. JWH compound was developed in the US in 1984. Obviously, that guy saw this being made in 1984, so he writes this article in 1986, like, danger, Will, we're coming. But apparently nobody listened. This is 4 times as potent as THC, and it's fine to see into the brain and tells you how. This is the most potent one here. If you ever come across an individual who has bought a package with HU210 in it, you want to get back up. Because look at the potency on this. 100 to 800 times more potent than THC. And this was actually developed by a university, Hebrew University in 1988. I have no idea why. And then here's the one that was developed by Pfizer, 3 to 28 times more potent than THC. And for whatever reason, it's like the Kentucky Fried Chicken recipe got loose. This recipe got loose by Pfizer, and then it got out there into to the open market, so to speak. Not always a bad trip, but if you are involved, it probably is. Elevated BP, rapid heart rate, tremors, seizures, unconsciousness, hallucinations, delusions, paranoia, and numbness, tingling, muscle loss, vomiting. Here's the other ones. The one that really comes into play is excessive thirst. You got to have the water. Now, Diane, remember at A-Ride they were talking about K2 Spice, and if there's a party going on, like a rave party, where they may have K2 Spice available, or bath salts, they need the water. So the parties, or the liquor store closest, or the party store closest to that party, if you walk in there and go, hey, I need to buy a bottle of water, guess what? They're all sold out of water because they just bought all the water for the party. Now the party's free to get into, but it may cost $10 for the bottle of water. So that's how it works. 6 to 8 hour high. Effects vary from use to use, any person. You don't feel any pain. Sometimes you take all your clothes off. And also certainly death. There was a death last year in 2012, 18-year-old overdosed in West Bloomfield. There is no antidote for it. Symptoms more like stimulants and a dissociative anesthetic. Dissociative anesthetic is like cough syrup, Robitussin, or like PCP or ketamine. Those are all dissociative anesthetics. Not detectable on any standard screen. We just got to flush it out with the fluids. Now, we did have a law for Spice K2 in October 2010, but those were the only chemical structured compounds that were covered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They knew that, so they obviously tweaked and got around those. And then it wasn't until eventually 2012 that we modified the law. Here's the charging code that prosecutors use for the law. It's a 2-year felony. Most drugs for simple possession, like marijuana, LSD, is a 1-year, but this is a 2-year. You can see the spike in the K2. There's the chart. And obviously that's why it became a concern. The other case that really made it big was the case out of Oakland County, where the guy took a baseball bat to his mother, father, anybody else around in the area. He was convicted, is in prison for the rest of his life. But my understanding, it was rumored that he was on K2 Spice at the time he was going through his little fit. It wasn't a little fit. I say that sarcastically. Obviously, he murdered somebody. Even though now it's being shown that he wasn't on bath salts at the time, he may have had marijuana in his system. Was the guy down in Miami who did some awful things to another person and they had to shoot this guy? It's now being revealed that he had THC in his system. But some of these I had to basically spell out like I do when I do homework with my son, like do the phonics. So the first one that we're going to talk about is phenethylamines. Then we're going to talk about tryptamines, and then a word I still can't pronounce, even though that word, and then piperazines, and then cannabinoids. So we're going to talk about these different types of drugs. These drugs, I can't stress enough, are very important for you to know because they're coming if they're not already here. And if they're here, it may not be a big issue now, but I can tell you this one is obviously really taking off. Here's what they do again. Think about it. This is ecstasy, the substance ecstasy, MDMA. That's the chemical name for ecstasy. Now, we have these other drugs that are basically ecstasy-type drugs, but it's not ecstasy. And what we're trying to do with ecstasy by tweaking these chemical compounds is make it even more pure. That's the key, make it more pure so you get that hallucination effect and you're feeling great. So that's why they make the 2C-B, the 2C-E. Here's a very popular one, 25I-NBOME. That's the Smileys that we're going to talk about. And so here's what it looks like. Here's some others, obviously the Smileys and the packaging. You don't need a lot of this to get that hallucination. Right now, it's presently a Scheduled I controlled substance on a temporary basis. That temporary basis, however, is coming off at the first of the year. So they need to extend it. So that's important. Here's where the map has hit on this particular drug. That means it's reported exposure of it to the Poison Control Center. And you can see usually it's the southeast part of the state. I'm not picking on the southeast part of the state, but also Kent County, and then over there. A couple hits up in Marquette, Dickinson, Delta. And then this is the next one. If you go back to the handouts for a second, if you go to the handouts though, because I know there's a couple slides in the handouts that are not in the that I can't show. I know there's a video that I can't show from the NBC Nightly News, but if you go back, you'll see this one that says, "Missing, have you seen Molly? She makes me want to dance." This is on the third page of the handout. These were t-shirts that were sold down in North Carolina at one of the parties. They call them like electric parties or whatever. And they sold out of these t-shirts. So they're very popular. I know that they're having one next year in Detroit. They have two next year? Yeah, and so I think they even reference Molly in the advertisement. So that's where this Molly, and then Madonna talked about it in one of her concerts. She's like, "Hey, has anybody seen Molly?" And she got some heat for that, believe it or not, and she explained why that was the case, and she said it. Here's the next one. All these are, once again, give you that hallucination. They're all stimulants, all right? So here's the next one, and once again, you're just going to tweak it. I don't need PCP. PCP is a very dangerous drug. It's the most dangerous drug that I know of. If somebody's on PCP, it's a scary situation. They feel no pain. And so why be on PCP when I can be on this particular drug? This is what it looks like. Again, the packaging, very small. They always mention not for human consumption. And then here's the tryptamines. And here's where the hits are. You can see with this particular map, I really lay it out in terms of all the different types of drugs I'm talking about right now, in terms of the different colors, and then where the hits have been on this. Not a lot yet, you can see, but I guarantee you it's like anything else. If it sprinkles in, then eventually it could become more than just a sprinkle. And the piperazines. These are the cannabinoids now. You remember K2 Spice as of July 1st, 2012? They made a lot of chemical compounds illegal. They still find other chemical compounds to make. And there are some examples of how they're doing it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that they've come up with already. So now the legislature has to fill this hole. And they haven't done it yet. They seem to always be a step ahead of the legislature. And now you can put it in your eyes. You can put it in these, everybody hears about these cigarettes. And then you put it in there. But you can literally put it, it's like Visine. Why snort it? Why, digest it or ingest it? We'll just put it in our eyes. And you can see this is not a very good map, but you can see that K2 Spice is not going away based on this map. This is after the law took effect on July 1st, 2012. Look at the hits. That's quite a bit.
Those little light blue dots?
That's the little light blue dot, so I should have made another dot color, and I'm sorry. Please don't hold that against me. Now, here's some of the other things that's creative about drugs. We have adulterants where you adulterate drugs. We adulterate cocaine. We adulterate heroin. Now, does this come to Michigan? Yes. Here's a this is a fertilizer called Levosol. It was also used for some other things. But this Levosol, this fertilizer, we actually sold to the Colombian government. Well, the drug lords got a hold of it in Colombia and decided to put it in their cocaine. Why did they put it in their cocaine? Because of this. It passes the bleach test, the purity. So when you think you're getting this like really pure, good cocaine, it actually may be adulterated with this fertilizer in the cocaine called Levosol. It's amazing. This is also what it was used for too, treat worm infestations in humans and animals. That's what it does to you. Used in aquariums for control of parasites, and also words I can't pronounce. But I will tell you this, it's a very dangerous adulterated drug. And it's also, they adulterate heroin. You can do it with heroin too, with this drug, or I'm sorry, with this adulterated chemical called xylazine. And it's actually an anesthetic used to subdue large animals. But they put it in the heroin that, once again, look like you're getting this pure heroin. Where are the hits on this? Let's see if I got the hits on this. I don't think I do. Doka is a mild tobacco. Kids love this stuff, called Doka. High nicotine level, head rush effect. They actually show you how you can do it. Doka means dizzy, lightheaded, dizzy feeling in common. Squeeze size of Doka container to open. Has anybody seen Doka? Or, okay, kids have. Insert into the Doka container and spin back and forth to load, and then start by hitting slow once you're used to it. Hit away or whip away. Hold in your hit for a few seconds. Slowly exhale and enjoy. So you may want to keep in mind it's been seized by law enforcement officers in Michigan. This Doka. Here's what it looks like. They like the pipes because the pipes are cool, kind of cool looking pipes. Kids like cool stuff, so the pipes are cool. This I'm not too worried about in Michigan, this kratom. It comes from Asia. I haven't seen a lot of it here, but you can get it on the internet. I can tell you right now, you can get any of these drugs on the internet. It doesn't take that long. This drug is the scariest drug out there.
No one ever saw it. I didn't think it was real. It was just
It's a real drug. It's scary. I can't stress enough that we do not want this in Michigan. We actually, when I was up doing a presentation up in St. Ignace, the prosecutor said, hey, I just got a police report that they seized 2 samples of crocodile up in the Sioux. Well, that turned out to be false. Now, crocodile gets its name from crocodile, the reptile crocodile, because what this does to you is just awful to your body. First of all, what is crocodile? It's basically 3 times less than the cost of heroin. So why make heroin? Or why buy heroin, or why try to sell heroin when I can sell crocodile? Now, there were 2 ladies in Chicago that thought they were buying heroin, when in actuality they were buying crocodile. They didn't know it. And they took it, and then obviously it did bad things to them, and they had to check themselves into the hospital. Here's what it requires. I guarantee you, if you go to the internet after you leave here and you look it up, she's shaking her head. That means she looked it up. You didn't look it up already, though, did you?
Oh, I've looked it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's horrible. See Diane's pictures back there. It's awful.
Just Google image it.
Yeah. This is what it's made out of, though. By the way, it comes from Russia. This here is a Siberian a lab, right there. And you can see it requires codeine tablets, iodine, red phosphorus, gasoline, hydrochloric acid, and industrial hard surface cleaners. So it's nasty. It rips your body apart. This is not where it's at in Michigan, by the way. This is the next thing I want to talk about. This, to me, is the drug you need to really pay close attention to, called Soma. I can't stress it enough. If you look back to the most common drugs at the Michigan State Police Laboratory, you'll see that it's now tied for 4th. I never saw Soma up there until last year, 2012. Once again, it's a back pain. It's for back pain. It's really a pain muscle relaxant, too, but it helps relieve the pain. High school kids love the Soma. If you look it up all through the internet, you'll see they love it. They want to get back into the wrestling match. They want to get back on the football field. But you can see, this is that's obviously the name they sell it under, but this is actually the name right here. You may want to look that up. And you can see it's starting to really hit in Michigan in terms of the reported exposures of it. Southeast is clearly always leading the league, so to speak. And then here's the distribution trends now. Gas stations, head shops, tobacco shops are no longer the case. It's now internet stores and adult bookstores, believe it or not. And obviously the Michigan Department of Community Health does have a lot of power when that law took effect back in July 2012 to, in essence, change it or ask for a drug to be temporarily placed on it as a Schedule I drug. But that time period goes by pretty quickly. It's about a year. They've been asked about certain drugs. Some have made it on there, some have not. The phenethylamines have. The last thing I want to talk about, are there any questions on this? I just wanted to give you an update as to where we're going in Michigan. I just want to talk briefly, and I don't think I have it because I don't have, if you go back to your PowerPoint handouts, you do have a site for the NBCnews.com video nightly news that you can bring up. It's got it's a really good story on this issue. The other one that you have, if you go through these with me, is, I believe it's Demi Moore. Oh, by the way, is crocodile in the United States the world's most horrifying drug is already spreading rapidly across the United States? I think that's a little embellishing there. But nonetheless, this is 5 pages from the 6 pages from the back on the handouts. The user symptoms: scaly skin, flesh rotting from the inside out, blood vessels burst, gangrene, short lifespan. No kidding. And then the last one I thought I had on here. Yeah, this is scary. You can see the third from last page of the handout. Good golly, Miss Miley Cyrus was in the recent Rolling Stones magazine, and she mixes marijuana and peyote together, and she loves it because she hears and sees wolves howling every night when she takes it, or every other night, or ever when she takes it. So this was kind of a scary article from, because my son used to like that show that she was on. I forgot what it was called. Yeah, he loved that show, but not anymore. I'm like, stay away. And then one of the best websites, second to last page, is this EROWID. It gives you a really good perspective about drugs in terms of all kinds of different things about it. It talks about plants and drugs, mind and spirit. It's actually from one of the medical marijuana advocacy groups put this together, but I can tell you this, it's a really good website. I can't stress enough how good it is. I find out a lot of information. Sometimes the information on there is used against, I don't mean this in a harsh way, is used against them when they make an argument on a certain issue in court. It's like, well, your website with the information in that website says it does this. Oh, you found that, or how'd you get that, or where'd you get that? It's like, well, you have it right there on the internet. So sometimes you got to be careful what you put out there. So now here's the marijuana potency. I want to talk about the marijuana potency for a second, because there's 2 big issues dealing with marijuana, in my opinion: minors and driving. In Michigan, as I said earlier, minors can be on medical marijuana as long as they have 2 physicians sign off. And certainly the concern, you can see the average THC for the potency in 2008. This is based on seized marijuana by the federal government, 10.1%. 2007, 7.3%. 1983, less than 4%. And this is also important for the driving issue. A 50% concentration of THC can remain in the body up to 8 days after marijuana use. I wanted to know more about marijuana, so when I was in Kalamazoo about 6 months ago, I asked, I went to Barnes & Noble, and I said to the Barnes & Noble salesperson, I like whispered it, and I said, hey, do you guys sell High Times? They said it's our #1 selling magazine at the Barnes & Noble Importage. So now I pick up High Times on a monthly basis. And I can't stress enough the information you get in High Times. So I'm like, is it really? Like, the big issue right now is medibles. So like Magical Butter and 3 simple steps, how to make it. And this is a big issue too right now. But nonetheless, so here's one of the examples. THC. This is White Dog. Look at the THC on this, 21%. And then it says it's used to treat pain, nausea, muscle spasms, and stimulate appetite. Other effects include relaxation, euphoria, and altered space-time perception, whatever that means. And certainly this is advertised in High Times. Now, the street price, It has not changed. I know the street price hasn't changed because it tells me in Michigan right now, according to High Times, that in Detroit, there's sour OG Kush for $420 an ounce, and also Big Buddha cheese for $400 an ounce. And in Traverse City, they have OG Kush for $500 an ounce. We're one of the more expensive states for marijuana right now. There are 20 medical marijuana states now, including the District of Columbia. I just want to go, if I have the pictures in this one of the kids, I don't want to go through a lot of this. Here are some of the marijuana strains. I can tell you right now, the most popular strain, very popular. If you have like 5 ounces of this, you're like golden to everybody. It's Banana Kush, very popular. The worst, and the name gives it the worst, is Hindu Skunk. All right, I learned all about this stuff. And then obviously I picked up another magazine in Colorado. They have like magazines all over the street called The Chronicle, and it's really kind of amazing. I just want to see if I have the pictures of the children. I may not have it in this one, I apologize. The other one has it. Here's the Kuhn case. It came down May 21st, 2013, just to note that. And I thought I had the pictures, but if you look at my handout here, I didn't bring one on medical marijuana, sorry. Here's the one big issue I want you to know, and then I'm going to stop right here. This is very important. The legislature is dealing with this issue because they're not happy with the decision that just came out. Marijuana under the Public Health Code, when you read this with me, this is how amazing this stuff is. It talks about, it means all parts of the plant Cannabis sativa L, growing or not, the seeds thereof, and this is the big case that came out, the resin extracted from any part of the plant. Now, this part here, if you want to make really good brownies and medibles and Rice Krispie treats, you have to extract the resin in order to get that THC to put into the brownies. All right, that's the process if you want the really good stuff. If you want the crappy stuff, then you're going to use like the dry leaves and flowers of the marijuana plant. That's crappy stuff. So here's the usable definition of usable marijuana. It talks about the dry leaves and flowers of the marijuana plant and any mixture or preparation thereof, but does not include the seeds, stalk, and roots of the plant. It also didn't mention this, the resin extracted from any part of the plant. So we have a case in Oakland County where they seize 60 trays of brownies, 60 trays, not 60 brownies, 60 trays. And the brownies are made this way. The raisins extracted from a plant in order to put that THC into those brownies. The Michigan Court of Appeals held or ruled that is not usable marijuana under the definition of usable marijuana. Therefore, it's just marijuana, therefore it's illegal. So there obviously is this concern because we have patients that use moisturizers or use like body oil or whatever, and it's made with this THC extracted from the raisin. Well, it's illegal. So the legislature is dealing with that issue as we speak. So you may see a definition on that, allowing for the medibles, as they're called, or the body lotions. Right now, in essence, all of that's illegal because it's all made this way. I can tell you that right now. It's like if you want to make good Kentucky Fried Chicken, you're going to use the recipe. You're not going to use something different. So that's the same here. You're going to use that raisin extracted from the plant. They can't do that and call it usable marijuana is what I'm trying to say. So it's a fascinating issue. And you're going to see it in the news about this medibles more. Are there any questions on, this is the big case. Michigan Supreme Court only has one case, State of Michigan versus McQueen. They're going to decide the fate of the Medical Marijuana Act. And they should come out with a decision any time now. And I guarantee you when they come out with a decision, it'll be all over the news. Questions? I do want to thank you. I'm very privileged to be here, and I do wish everybody the best, and everybody have a happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. Thank you.